During dinner with my son, an incredible text revealed, "Leave now, a life-changing secret awaits." Mark sat at the dinner table, his heart heavy as he watched Jake pick at his meal. The once vibrant house they shared felt like a shell, a haunting echo of laughter long gone. The air was thick with unspoken words, and food lost its flavor, mirroring their modest financial situation. Mark's hands trembled slightly as he reached for the salt shaker, the mundane act a reminder of the weight he carried. He cleared his throat, hoping to pierce the silence. "How was school today?" His voice was gentle, laced with a father's love, a shield against the wall Jake had built around himself. Jake shrugged, his expression somewhere between indifference and anguish. Mark's heart sank a little more. It had been months since they shared a real conversation. For a fleeting moment, they were on common ground as Jake spoke about his grades. Mark felt a flicker of connection. Then, an urgent buzz interrupted, breaking the fragile moment like a glass shattering on the floor. Mark glanced at his phone, confused. The text read, "Leave now, a life-changing secret awaits." Those words ignited a spark deep within him, stirring a whirlwind of emotions. Mark felt excitement intertwined with fear. "Who's it from?" Jake asked, his interest piqued. Mark hesitated, battling the impulse to chase this mystery. Was this text a chance to reclaim his dreams, or would it push Jake further away? He felt torn, caught between the father he was and the man he once aspired to be. A charged silence filled the small kitchen. "Do you think we should go?" Mark asked, feeling the weight of his decision. The tension crackled between them. Jake looked down at his plate, his fingers tugging at the frayed fabric of his long-sleeved shirt. "I don't know. What if it's a waste of time?" Mark's chest tightened. "It could be something important, something that brings us back together," he replied softly, longing for that closeness they had lost. In that moment, they both felt the weight of expectations looming over them. The reality of their shattered family echoed in the silence. Before they could second-guess themselves, they made that impulsive decision to leave the familiarity of their suburban life. As they stepped into the cool night air, uncertainty loomed. Each step further away from home felt like leaving behind the safety of their routine. Mark glanced at Jake, who met his gaze with a flicker of hope. Perhaps a chance for healing awaited them. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." As they approached the meeting point, their hearts raced with anticipation. A wave of doubt washed over Mark. What if it was just a trick? But as they neared their destination, a sense of purpose filled the air. Could this meeting unlock a truth that could heal their fractured bond? Pulling Jake along, Mark felt the adrenaline surge. To turn back now would mean giving in to their fears. The question hung ominously. Would they step into the unknown, risking everything they had built for just a glimpse of something better? Or would the truth they sought bind them closer in their shared struggles, revealing a family still capable of laughter and love? The night wrapped around them like a thick blanket as they rounded the last corner. The address was displayed in bright lights, an unassuming community center that pulsed with a warm, inviting glow. From the moment they approached, the sounds of laughter and chatter filled the air, mingling with music that felt both familiar and foreign. It was a gathering place full of people who were eager to connect, and that buzz only amplified their anxious hearts. Mark hesitated. He could feel the weight of his worries trying to pull him back. "What if we shouldn't be here?" he whispered, glancing down at Jake, who was studying the building with wide eyes. "We won't know unless we try," Jake replied, his voice firmer than before. The tension in his grip on Mark's hand had relaxed, and for the first time, there was a spark of excitement igniting between them. As they entered, a wave of warmth greeted them, filling the empty corners of their hearts. The room was a tapestry of strangers, all intertwined by a common thread of curiosity and hope. People were animatedly sharing stories, and Mark could sense a collective yearning for change. Perhaps they were all searching for something just as he and Jake were. They made their way to a circle gathering at the center of the room, and Mark's eyes landed on a woman at the forefront, her voice rich with emotion. Change doesn't come from what you have, but from who you are willing to become. She spoke passionately, her words wrapping around them. Mark felt his heart skip. It was an empowering realization that resonated deeply with him. Jake nudged Mark with his elbow, his expression a mix of awe and intrigue. "Did you hear that?" he whispered, excitement dancing in his eyes. "What if this is what we need?" Mark nodded, feeling a swell of warmth. For the first time in months he could see a shift in Jake's demeanor. A hint of belief filtering through. They were both here together looking for something greater. The crowd began to break up into smaller groups, and Mark instinctively took Jake's hand, guiding him towards a group discussing dreams and aspirations. A bearded man with gentle eyes greeted them. "Welcome. We were just sharing what we've been working toward. What about you?" he asked, his enthusiasm contagious. Mark hesitated, his heart racing. "We were just here to explore. Trying to find our way back to each other, I guess." The vulnerability of sharing their truth was fresh, but it felt liberating. The man nodded, his eyes warm. "That's the first step, my friend. It's never too late to start over or rekindle connections. Let us talk about what you both want." As the conversation flowed, Mark found himself opening up, laying bare their past struggles and dreams. Jake listened intently, his earlier reservations dissolving with each shared story. They began to laugh, to connect, and for the first time since that fateful dinner, the weight of silence felt lifted. But just as the night seemed to ignite with possibilities, a commotion at the entrance caught their attention. A tall figure stepped in, backlit against the crowd, exuding a commanding presence. The room fell silent, and Mark's heart raced as he saw the look on Jake's face transform from joy to disbelief. "Is that?" Jake whispered, his voice barely audible, pointing toward the figure who was now striding purposefully toward them. Mark's mind raced, piecing together connections he never thought possible. The figure drew closer, and Mark braced himself. This could change everything. What if this encounter held the key to what they had been searching for? "Jake! Mark!" The figure's voice boomed across the room. "I've been looking for you." Everything inside Mark froze. Just who had they stumbled upon? Mark squinted, trying to make out the figure's face as the low light of the community center mingled with the murmur of onlookers. The tall silhouette became clearer, and a wave of recognition washed over him, only to be shadowed by uncertainty. It was Nathan, an old friend from college, someone he hadn't seen in years. "Nathan?" Jake's voice cracked, caught somewhere between confusion and disbelief. The surprise painted across his features mirrored Mark's own internal turmoil. How had Nathan found them here, of all places? Nathan strode closer, his eyes bright and searching. "Wow, it's really you two. I can't believe you're here." He looked genuinely thrilled, but Mark couldn't shake off the feeling that there was more behind Nathan's enthusiasm. The last time they spoke had been on shaky ground, with unresolved issues complicating their friendship. "Hey, it's been a while," Mark managed, a strange mix of joy and apprehension flooding him as the former familiarity met the weight of their past. A small crowd had gathered around them, intrigued by the sudden reunion. Nathan had a way of drawing people in with his charisma, and before long everyone was leaning in, eager to hear what he had to say. "I just came from a workshop that's changed my life. And I think it could really help you too," he said, eyes sparkling with conviction. "Help us?" Jake echoed, his voice steadying as curiosity overcame disbelief. "How do you know what we need?" Nathan seemed unfazed by the question. "I can just tell. You've both been carrying a heavy burden, and it's time to let it go. Look, we can talk later, but right now you need to come with me. Trust me, the next session is about to start, and it could be a game changer for you." Mark exchanged a glance with Jake. The excitement in Nathan's tone was contagious, but a nagging voice in the back of Mark's mind warned him to tread lightly. This was their night of discovery, and here stood a chance to unravel the tangled threads of their lives. "What do you mean by game changer?" Mark asked, his brow furrowing as he tried to read Nathan's intent. "There's no time for doubt." Nathan leaned in, his voice lowered but filled with urgency. "You guys are reacting out of fear. Instead, embrace who you are now, not who you were. You've got potential inside both of you waiting to be unlocked." The invitation hung in the air, thick with potential and apprehension. The warmth of the community center suddenly felt alive, electrified by Nathan's presence, but also suffocatingly constrictive as Mark's worries resurfaced. Could they really step into this unknown game? What do you think? Jake asked, his grip tightening around Mark's hand. There was a spark in Jake's eyes that hadn't been there moments before, a burgeoning bravery that dared to confront the fear holding them back. Maybe this is exactly what we need, Jake continued, his voice steady as he looked up at Mark, face brimming with hope. A chance to redefine stuff, to change everything. The crowd around them buzzed with anticipation. Mark hesitated, battling his own uncertainty, but ultimately the yearning in Jake's voice pierced through. This wasn't about retreating into their past. It was about stepping boldly into their future. Before he could utter a sound, Nathan flashed a knowing grin. Then let us go. Bring it all, your dreams, your baggage, everything. As they followed Nathan away from the group, Mark's heartbeat quickened, anticipating the thrill of possibility mixed with a creeping fear of what lay ahead. How much would they need to confront? And was this truly the key to unlocking a new chapter in their lives? The pathway ahead shimmered in uncertainty and promise, but one question nagged in the back of his mind. What secrets had Nathan uncovered that could irrevocably change everything? The room felt alive as Nathan navigated them into a bright, airy space. It hummed with chatter and laughter, a contrast to the swirling doubts in Mark's mind. Bright posters adorned the walls, filled with affirmations and quotes that hinted at bold transformations. Unlock your potential and embrace the change, leapt out at him, almost tauntingly. Everything you need is right here, Nathan declared, his voice rising above the crowd. He gestured toward a large circle of chairs where others sat, ready for the magic to unfold. Just take a seat and keep an open mind. Jake squeezed Mark's hand again, and Mark could feel a wave of warmth flooding his heart. It was exhilarating to see Jake so hopeful, so ready to dive into this unknown pool. But Mark's heart raced not just with excitement. The weight of old wounds and fears clung like shadows at the edges of his mind. What's this really about, Nathan? Mark ventured, trying to inject a note of caution into the fray. You said it was life-changing. What does that mean? Nathan turned, his blue eyes penetrating, searching. It means finding what's been holding you back. It's about facing it, letting it go. We all have something, a past, regrets, fears. But this isn't about regret. It's about hope and what lies ahead. The words hung in the air, heavy yet charged with possibility. Mark looked around the room, quickly assessing the assortment of faces. There were young adults, middle-aged folks, and even seniors all on this journey together. Could they really unlock something by confronting their past? The notion both terrified and thrilled him. Look, Nathan continued, the session is about to start and this is the only time. Just sit down, I promise you'll thank me later. He beckoned them forward and Mark found himself moving, Jake right beside him, confidence swelling in a way he hadn't felt in years. But as they settled into the circle, a knot of anxiety twisted in Mark's stomach. The smiles around him seemed genuine. But could he trust these feelings that surged like an electric current? Was he ready to confront what lay buried inside? A facilitator, a woman with a calming presence, began guiding the discussion. She spoke about vulnerability, courage, and the strength needed to share one's truth. The participants were encouraged to unearth their stories, to voice the struggle within. Mark's heart thudded painfully against his chest. He opened his mouth to speak, but the words caught in his throat. Jake glanced sideways, encouraging him with a supportive smile. Even in this crowd, Mark could feel the weight of expectation, his own doubts staring back at him. I can't, he whispered to Jake. I can't do this. Just breathe, Jake whispered back. You're not alone. Something about that simple reminder chipped away at Mark's barriers. He was not alone. They had faced darkness together before. Maybe this was their chance to dive into the light, to expose the scars that had held them back for too long. As the group began to share their stories, Mark listened, captivated by the vulnerability in others. Each revelation felt like peering through a window into someone else's soul, a testament to resilience, to hope. The vulnerability radiating from the circle began to break through his fears like thin ice underfoot. Then it was his turn. Mark took a deep breath and with his heart racing he began. I've carried this weight for a long time, he confessed, with the people around him leaning in, waiting. But I want to let it go. I want to find out who I am now. A soft murmur of encouragement rippled through the circle. A wave of collective understanding that invigorated his spirit. Mark found strength in shared vulnerability, in the sheer act of opening up. But just as the warmth began to fill him fully, a sudden buzz from his phone startled him. He glanced down at the screen, a message that made his blood run cold. Leave now, a life-changing secret awaits. Caught between this newfound light and a message that screamed urgency, Mark's mind raced. What could be more significant than what he just began to uncover? As the discussion continued, he stared at the screen, a decision looming. What lay ahead could change everything. But was he ready to step away from the struggle he had just begun to embrace? Mark felt his palms go clammy as he stared at the text, his heart pounding in his chest. The words taunted him, pulling at his curiosity while chaining him to his fears. He glanced at Jake, who was fully engaged in the circle's energy, his eyes sparkling with encouragement and trust in the process. For a moment, Mark felt like he was being torn between two worlds: the community he was beginning to embrace, and the mysterious promise of something transformative waiting just outside. Mark. The facilitator's voice cut through his fog of uncertainty, drawing his attention back to the group. Are you okay? You seem distant. Yeah, he hesitated, glancing again at his phone. The message loomed large in his mind. I just got a text. Feels urgent. The woman nodded, signaling for him to continue. Mark could feel the weight of everyone's attention, soft but pressing, like a warm blanket meant to comfort him. Sometimes urgent things can wait, she suggested gently, her voice soothing. What's happening here this moment? It's important too. You're safe here. Mark was caught in a pause, the knot in his stomach growing. Could he trust that instinct? Could he truly let go of the unknown calling him outside? He looked at Jake again, whose smile encouraged him to stay. The warmth flooded back. As Nathan had said, this was about hope and facing what had held him down. I guess I'm just scared, he finally admitted. The honesty seemed to hang in the air, and for the first time, he felt lighter for voicing it. I'm scared of what's behind this door I'm trying to open. The group around him murmured in understanding. One by one they shared their own fears of stepping into the unknown, their voices weaving a tapestry of shared struggles. The weight of old burdens started to feel lighter as the collective experience brought a resonance he hadn't expected. You're not just facing this alone, Mark, Jake whispered softly, squeezing his hand. Remember, we walked through so much before. This is just another step. At that moment, a flicker of clarity shot through him. Yes, they had walked through darkness before, and here they were, trying to move towards the light together. What could be more profound than standing up against his ghosts? As the room filled with more stories, people sharing regrets of past mistakes, painful recollections of lost opportunities, Mark felt the tide of his own fear beginning to shift. He leaned into the energy. Maybe the secret in that text could wait a little longer. Maybe it didn't matter if it was life-changing. What mattered was the life he was beginning to reshape right now. Yet, just as Mark began to settle into the rhythm of the discussion, his phone buzzed again, insistent and haunting. The urgency felt sharper. He glanced at the screen, torn. Another message had arrived. Don't ignore this, Mark. You won't get another chance like this. Mark's heart raced again. A new wave of tension erupting. What was this secret? What could possibly be more important than the connection he was forging right here? The facilitator caught the look on his face. Remember, sometimes life's biggest transformations come from the bravest decisions, she said, her gaze steady. This moment hung like a delicate balance between choice and consequence. He felt the room around him pulse with anticipation, waiting for him to make a choice. Should he stay open to the healing unfolding before him, or give in to the pull of the unknown? Jake's voice was soft, urging him to be true to himself. You need to decide what matters most. In that instant, Mark realized that perhaps the life-changing secret wasn't just in the message on his phone. Perhaps it lay in the very act of uncovering the chapters of himself that he had long kept hidden. But now, standing on the precipice of his decision, could he truly let go of the past and embrace this chance to rewrite his story? Mark's heart thudded wildly in his chest. The world around him dimmed, and the only thing that mattered was the screen in front of him, glowing with a promise he wasn't sure he was ready to face. It felt like his past was clawing at him, trying to pull him back. I should probably just handle this, he muttered, glancing at Jake, who wore a look of concern. Mark could sense the plea in Jake's eyes to stay, to fight against his instinct to escape into the unknown. "Mark," Jake said, his voice steady. "Talk to us. Don't let that text pull you away from here right now. You're right in the middle of something important." The facilitator nodded in agreement, her gentle expression urging him to stay present. Mark took a deep breath, weighing his options. The pressure of the moment left him dizzy. He felt torn, and it was as if the floor beneath him wasn't solid anymore. "Look," he started, forcing himself to address the group. "I got this text that feels urgent. It's not just a regular issue. It's something that keeps telling me I need to act fast." One of the women in the circle leaned forward, her voice soft. "We all have those things that pull us. But sometimes the most important decisions are about where you are, who you're with." Mark glanced at Jake, who was nodding, his expression an anchor in the rising tide of Mark's mind. The room buzzed with anticipation. It was almost electric. The weight of the text slipped a little, replaced with a realization. What if it's not so secretive? What if the real treasure is here in this moment, with all of you? The words came out more confidently than he expected, surprising even himself as the group began to share more about their experiences with fear and urgency. Something shifted inside Mark. He began to reframe the message. Yes, it was calling him, but maybe it wasn't something he needed to chase after. Maybe the message was about facing the life he was leading now, not a life still waiting on the other side of that text. Another text buzzed, louder this time, as if it were pounding on the door of his reality. He hesitated, but this time he didn't let the fear propel him. Instead, he placed the phone down on the mat beside him, as though it had suddenly lost its power. Jake's hand squeezed his tighter. "I'm proud of you, Mark. That took courage." The words filled him with warmth. Here, surrounded by these people, he started to feel something transformative. Voices wrapped around him, sharing stories of resilience, how their own choices had shaped their paths. The weight of his fears felt lighter. They were dissolving in the light of these shared truths. But just as he began to feel a kind of peace, the message turned over in his mind. What had it meant? What would happen if he ignored it completely? Would he regret not knowing what it was? The group's energies surged, amplifying his conflicted thoughts. He wanted to be present, but a lingering doubt gnawed at him. He felt a pull towards the unknown, the thrill of possibilities flickering behind that unopened door. Then, he caught the facilitator's steady gaze again, her expression one of gentle guidance. "The heart often knows the truth before we do," she said. "Trust it." In that moment, Mark felt a crossroads opening. Should he dive into this new journey here and now? Or should he take the leap outside into the world that text promised? Could he wrestle with both fear and possibility? Or must he choose one over the other? As he searched the faces around him, the familiar echo of his heartbeat thundered through his ears, battling with the growing certainty that something monumental was just beginning to unfold. Mark took a deep breath, feeling the ground beneath him steady once more. He could feel weighty decisions crashing against the shore of his mind, urging him to find clarity. But in the tension of uncertainty, he wondered when would he finally confront the truth of what awaited him? Mark's mind raced as the tension in the room felt palpable. He could see the concern etched on the faces surrounding him, the curiosity and support blending into something almost tangible. The circle seemed smaller now, filled with warmth and possibility, but outside that circle, chaos whispered through the phone lying on the mat. "What if I just open it?" He wondered, shifting nervously on his cushion. An image of that text flashed in his mind again. A message that altered everything. But then he looked around Jake, the facilitator, and the others, each one a reminder of where he was and the moment they were sharing. "Mark," Jake said again, his tone shifting to something softer, "what is stopping you from being here?" The question hung in the air, undeniable. The words felt like a lifeline, pulling Mark back to the present. He inhaled slowly, focusing on his breath, peeling away layers of anxiety that had amassed in his chest. "I guess I'm scared of what lies outside." "Are you scared of the text or the life you left behind?" Jake's words were blunt, but they hit home. Mark felt a knot tightening in his stomach. "Maybe a bit of both," Mark admitted, swallowing hard. "What if there is something I need to confront?" "Sometimes what we need to confront is the comfort we left," the facilitator interjected. Her voice was a gentle balm. "It's about choosing, do you want to chase after something that doesn't exist, or fortify the place you're standing right now. He had been running for so long, but this moment the warmth of the circle, the stories of strength felt real. What if I face my fears here first before opening that door out there? There was something liberating in that thought. He could work through the emotions currently swirling inside him without needing to know what waited beyond the text. I guess I just don't know where to begin, Mark said sheepishly, glancing at the group. The acknowledgement suddenly made the path clear. The first step was honesty. The woman who had earlier leaned in closer spoke up again. Start wherever it hurts the most, Mark. Tell us what you're feeling. As he opened his mouth, the emotions came spilling out, raw and unfettered. I've been avoiding my past. Running away because I didn't know how to face it. That text is just a reminder of all I've left behind. The words felt heavy but freeing, like shedding a long-worn coat. In that shared vulnerability, the group leaned closer, their energy wrapping around him as if they were forming a protective barrier against his fears. Without facing it, are you even certain what the text truly means? Jake asked, a serious expression on his face. What if it's not the urgency of action that it promises? What if it's about finding closure? Mark's eyes widened. The hope in those words churned the thoughts in his mind into a veritable storm. This could be the turning point. Maybe the text wasn't a call to action, but rather a bridge to understanding his past. Feeling lighter, Mark glanced at the phone, still lying innocently on the mat. Instead of trepidation, curiosity nudged at him. What if it held the missing pieces he didn't even know he needed? In a moment of decision, he leaned back, his breath steadier than before. Perhaps I shouldn't run away. Maybe it's time I sit with the discomfort and discover what's waiting for me in both places here and out there. The group nodded, encouragement shimmering in their eyes, and Mark felt a sense of unity. But with this realization came a subtle twist in his gut. The phone vibrated again, breaking the silence, and with that vibration, a sense of impending clarity washed over him. Now, he said, glancing between Jake and the facilitator, what if I decide to open the text together with you guys? What if I share whatever it says? They exchanged glances filled with promise and a hint of apprehension as he lifted the phone to his ear. A mix of exhilaration and dread surged through him. Part of him begged to hold on to this moment. Yet another part urged him to uncover the truth waiting on the other side. Would he uncover the answers he needed or unleash a storm he wasn't ready for? The weight of his decision hung in the air, heavy with expectation, igniting in Mark a whirlpool of anticipation and fear intertwined. As he pressed the screen to read the message, he couldn't shake the feeling that everything was about to change, and he realized there was no turning back now. Mark's heart pounded as he stared at the phone in his hand. The vibration felt like an electric pulse, coursing through him. Taking a deep breath, he held the device closer to his face, willing his eyes to focus. It couldn't just be noise, it had to mean something. Go ahead, Jake urged softly, the sound of his voice grounding. The encouragement from the group pulsed like a heartbeat, echoing in the silence. Okay, Mark whispered, more to himself than to anyone else. He hesitated for a heartbeat, then pressed his thumb on the screen. The text appeared, each word a stone thrown into the stillness. Leave now, a life-changing secret awaits. A chill cascaded down his spine. What did this even mean? Was it a warning? Or an invitation? He heard the collective breath drawn in by the group, a threaded tension binding them all together. Wow, someone breathed. I don't know how to process this, Mark admitted, the words catching in his throat. What are they talking about? The facilitator leaned in, her expression sort of a mix of understanding and kindness. This could be the start of something important. It sounds urgent. What do you think it's calling you to do? Run. Mark laughed nervously. Or flee, I guess. But where to? That's the question, I sent it. Jake said, his brow furrowed. What if it means you should leave behind the things holding you back? The comforts that are no longer serving you? Mark's mind raced with scenarios. He felt trapped in this instant. Could he disconnect from everyone he knew? Could he actually unwrap the layers of his past and stand alone in the uncertainty? But deep down he felt this magnetic pull like gravity, pushing him toward the door of possibility. Mark, face it, the woman spoke again, her gaze steady. What could leave now mean for you? Is it about physical space? Or is it about freeing yourself from something tied to your past? The question swirled, unraveling sealed edges of his mind. Was it his old job? The relationship he avoided? Or was it the notion of who he thought he should be, tethered to responsibilities and expectations, never truly moving forward? Slowly, like the first hint of dawn, clarity began to break through. Maybe it's about leaving behind how I define success, he said quietly. I've been chasing after something for so long and look where it brought me here, away from my growth. The air felt lighter instantly. Words had unleashed something within him. What if I took this as an opportunity to redefine myself? He added, hope edging into his voice. What if this isn't just about running away from my past, but about choosing a path toward my future? The group leaned in, their expressions animated. Yes, exactly, Jake encouraged, nodding. It might not just be a call to action but a challenge to step into your true self. Think about it. Mark felt a rush of warmth spreading through him. The urgency of the message transformed from a shackle into a launch pad, full of potential. What if we brainstorm some ideas? One of the other group members suggested. Let us imagine what leaving could look like for you. Mark nodded, excitement igniting. The vibration of the phone faded from his awareness. I could explore new work options, or maybe even reach out to old friends. And don't forget to think about what you truly want, the facilitator added, her voice gentle but firm. This is your journey. Let it reflect what's right for you. As inspiration flickered to life, Mark felt surrounded by a safety net woven of their support, his earlier fears receding. The shadows of doubt lifted as he realized that he didn't have to face it alone. He glanced back at the phone. It no longer felt like a portal to dread, more like a compass pointing toward uncharted territories. As the group erupted in brainstorming ideas, Mark felt a surge of adrenaline. He was moving forward. A tentative smile blossomed on his face. However, there was still that lingering thought of what lay beyond that text message. What if it really is a life-changing secret waiting out there? Mark mused, his heart pounding with a mix of excitement and anxiety. With that thought, he could already sense a wall shifting inside him. Was he ready for the possibility of his life changing, not just in small but monumental ways? What awaited him if he truly embraced this chance? The thought buzzed in his mind as he inked out possibilities with the eager group. But just as doubt lingered, a new text chimed in, drawing him back, and nothing could prepare him for what it would say next. The phone buzzed again, this time louder and more insistent, demanding his attention. Mark's heart raced as he unlocked the screen, curiosity and fear warring within him. The glowing light illuminated his face as the new message appeared, sending chills down his spine. Do not ignore this. An opportunity will present itself tonight. Trust your instincts. What the Mark's breath caught in his throat. The words sent a shiver through him. What does that even mean? An opportunity? Jake leaned close, his expression matching Mark's bewilderment. Dude, this feels like something serious, he said, his eyes wide with intrigue. I know, Mark replied, trying to steady himself. But what opportunity could it be? Maybe it's about tonight. Another group member chimed in. What do you have planned? Mark thought back to the dinner invitation he'd received from his son, Ben. It had been a while since they'd really connected. I'm meeting Ben for dinner. He's been distant lately. Could be the perfect moment to tackle something heavy, Jake suggested knowingly. The idea settled like a weight in Mark's chest. Dinner with his son could be the turning point he needed. A voice from deep within urged him to address the rift between them, the unspoken questions, the silent judgments. But what if he was making too much of this? A knot formed in his stomach. Could go south. I don't want to mess this up, he said quietly, uncertainty creeping in. Or it could go right. The facilitator encouraged, her eyes gleaming with hopeful expectation. What if you laid it all out? What if you asked him what's been bothering him? Mark felt a flicker of hope ignite within him. Yeah, maybe it's time to open up. The group rallied around him, their excitement palpable. They began tossing out ideas for how to approach the conversation. With each exchange, the possibility of a renewed relationship with Ben transformed into more than just a dream. It became a tangible option. Tell him what you've been feeling, Jake said, nodding. Let him know you want to be there for him. Exactly. One of the others piped in. Show him you're willing to listen. Kids love that, especially when they feel pressured about something. Mark felt his pulse quickening. The young man within him, longing to connect, shook awake. But the more they encouraged him, the more the pressure mounted. What if he messed it up? What if Ben rejected him again? The phone buzzed once more, breaking his spiral of doubt. He glanced down, the message teasing him. Will you step into your truth tonight? Looks like the universe wants you to do this, Mark, Jake joked lightly, trying to ease the heaviness settling in the air. No backing out now. Mark chuckled nervously but wondered if that was even possible. His thoughts danced with excitement and trepidation. This could be the moment that shifted everything between him and Ben. Okay, he exhaled finally. A sense of determination bubbling up. I'll do it. I'll talk to Ben. I want to understand him, and I want him to understand me. The group erupted in cheers, the warmth of their support wrapping around him like a comforting blanket. As the conversation slowed and plans took shape in his mind, Mark's emotions began to settle into a quiet determination. Yet what lay ahead felt both exhilarating and petrifying. Just remember, the facilitator cautioned, the journey starts with one step. Don't rush. Trust yourself. With that, Mark looked at the clock, tension swirling within him as he prepared to leave. But deep down he wondered about the cryptic text. Will you step into your truth tonight? What truth awaited him at that dinner table? As he walked toward the door, Mark felt a mix of fear and hope guiding his steps. Would he step into the vulnerability of the moment, or would he hold back? The unanswered question hung in the air like a promise. What did the night hold in store for him and his son? The night air felt electric as Mark stepped out of the community center, dragging his heartbeat in rhythm with the rising anticipation bubbling within him. Jake walked beside him, confidence radiating from his own striding steps, their connection tighter than it had been in months. The text had triggered a flurry of emotions, but now it transformed into a call, a rallying cry full of potential. Are you sure you're ready for this? Jake asked quietly as they approached the car. Mark nodded, still feeling the warmth of the community's support wrapping around him like a safety blanket. I have to be. I need to know where I stand with Ben, and where we can go from here. As they drove, the streets unfurled beneath the light of street lamps, each glow a beacon guiding him toward possibility. Memories flashed in his mind, talking late into the night, sharing dreams with Ben, the echoes of laughter and warmth that once filled their home. Yet, the silence that had soon enveloped their relationship ached all the more with each passing moment. With every turn, Mark could feel a mix of anxiety and hope coiling tighter within. Dinner was merely a meal sharing sustenance, but it was also a chance to mend their cracks, gaps wide enough to swallow any remaining connection. I wish I knew what to say, Mark confessed, gripping the steering wheel tight. What if I don't get through to him? Just be honest, Jake encouraged, intuition guiding his words. Tell him you want to understand. Kids appreciate that, trust me. His heart raced again, a fusion of fear and exhilaration, as they pulled into the restaurant's parking lot. Mark parked. Glancing at the building brightened with diners chatting, laughter weaving through the air. The thought of facing Ben seemed daunting, but it was also liberating. Here at this juncture everything could change. As they walked to the entrance he took a deep breath. What if he is angry? What if he resents me? The worry gnawed at him, each step only amplifying it. Then you listen, Jake replied firmly. You let him feel heard. That's what matters. In the warm light of the restaurant, the familiar figure of Ben came into view, his back turned against the bustle, absorbed in scrolling through his phone. Mark's stomach flipped. This was it. He exchanged a glance with Jake, who nodded encouragingly, and together they approached. Hey buddy, Mark said softly, the words flowing like honey. Dipped in hope? Ben turned, eyebrows arching in surprise. Dad? You're here? Yeah, I just wanted to talk. I hope that's okay. Ben hesitated, and the weight of moments stretched between them. The sound of cutlery and chatter drowned out the silence that filled the space, thick and palpable. The apprehension in Ben's eyes mirrored Mark's own uncertainty, but also revealed a flicker of curiosity. I've been wanting to ask how you've been. It feels like we've been apart for so long, Mark said, letting the words pour out like a river finding its way back home. I miss you, man. A pause hung in the air before Ben spoke, his sincerity breaking like dawn. I miss you too, Dad. But things have been complicated. Mark could barely contain the swell of emotion. I understand. Can we talk about it? Ben looked down for a brief moment, collecting his thoughts, then nodded. Yeah, that would be nice. As they settled into their seats, Jake positioned himself nearby, a quiet observer, ready to support. Mark took a breath that felt heavy but also liberating, leaning in. I've been carrying this weight. I'm so sorry for not being there enough for you. I want to understand how you feel. I want us to be okay. Ben's eyes softened, a mixture of relief and sadness shimmering in the depths. Sometimes it feels like you're busy with other things. I just don't know how to reach you. Mark's heart sank at those words. It's never too late. I want to change that, I really do. Can we start with where you are now? The conversation unfolded, each word gently dismantling walls built over time. Mark listened intently, letting Ben's voice fill the space, an essential part of the healing process. Ben recounted his struggles, fears of disappointing expectations, and the loneliness that permeated his thoughts. I just want to be who I am, not who I think you want me to be, Ben said, his voice quivering. So do I, Mark replied, heart pounding, feeling monumental cracks in their relationship begin to fill with understanding and hope. What if I promise to be support, to listen? I want you to be true to yourself. I want you to know that whatever that is, I'll stand by you. That's the truth. In that moment, as Ben's eyes met Mark's, he felt a bond resurrect, weaving a shared tapestry of vulnerability and love. For the first time in a long while, space felt safe, warm. The table between them transformed into a bridge, not a barrier, as laughter and warmth began to resurface. Mark felt the grip of the text message fade away, its urgency dissolving into the background like clouds lifting after a storm. The message was significant not for what awaited outside, but for what was unfolding here and now. In this act of courage and truth, he found what he had been chasing all along, a source of true connection. The heart of their home rebuilding itself anew as dinner unfolded. Stories were shared, laughs echoed, and worries lightened. Mark's heart swelled with hope. He had stepped into his truth, leaning fully into the moment with his son. The journey wasn't over. It had just begun, but now Mark was ready to embrace it entirely, as he and Ben forged a path into a future where love could grow freely once more. And they all shared that night, not merely as father and son but as two souls venturing into a brighter horizon together. If you felt that journey alongside them, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support for stories that resonate deeply with our truths. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, and help others discover these moments of connection. Comment your reactions and feelings about how transformation unfolds right before our eyes. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Let us spread the hope.